This is the new moon forecast for, hold on, I gotta check my notes, for the 15th of September to the 14th of October. Some crazy stuff going on this month, so let's go ahead and jump right in. So if you're new to these, what we're doing is we're looking at all the positions of the planets in the constellations, the literal planets, which is Sidereal Astrology. And the location that I am using is the Giza Plateau in Egypt, as opposed to the Giza Plateau in France. We will also be using the local time for all of these calculations, so you're gonna have to do some math if you want to figure out exactly when these things are taking place for you. But I wouldn't get too hung up on the exact time. This is a general forecast just by its very nature. For a detailed forecast where the actual timing matters, you're going to want to compare this to your individual natal chart. If you need help doing that, let me know. My contact information is in the video description. There's also a promo code in there in the video description in all of my videos. The people who find me through YouTube, they don't say anything and they don't use the promo. Just so you know, it's there. This month, the moon becomes new at 4:39 a.m. Egyptian Standard Time, and this is what this is going to look like. Where the horizon is in this case doesn't matter quite as much. What does matter though is that the sun and the moon are right here between Leo and Virgo. So we're going to get both of these energies and they're going to be pretty intense. There is a lot of overlap in the mythology of Leo and Virgo. If you look at Virgo, originally it was two different constellations known as the Furrow and the Fron. And if we get right down to it, they're essentially versions of Ishtar and Inanna. They were different goddesses in different regions, but I mean, they were basically just versions of her. This lion up here for Leo, in some myths, this was either the lioness of heaven, Inanna or Ishtar, or her battle mount, which was very ferocious and terrifying and made grown men cry and all kinds of things. She either rode the lion into battle or went into battle on her behalf. Either way, we are looking at powerful Ishtar energy. Way back when, Inanna was much more of a grain goddess, a Mother Earth goddess. She was associated with the crops. She was credited with domesticating plants and crops and domesticating animals. Thus, she was associated with fertility, life, bounty. Obviously, with all of this fertility, we're also looking at sexuality, thus love. But as time went on, her traits as the goddess of war really started to take precedence. And so we do have warlike traits in Leo and Virgo, although I would say they're much more dominant in Leo. We're moving out of Leo, but we still get, some of the tail end of this energy. If you actually go outside and you were able to look at the sky, obviously you can't because it's really bright. You can't see these constellations. But if you could see them, if it was just the moon in this portion of the sky, you would see the moon right next to this star right here. What does that mean for this month? Well, first of all, this is going to be a very important month. And again, this is generally speaking, financially, physically, and obviously on the geopolitical front, it could be a very intense time for any countries that are in the midst of conflicts or on the verge of World War III. So that probably isn't quite as good. But on a personal level, this can be a really good time for you not only to have fun and still get some of this adventure and joy and pleasure and intimacy and just fun experiences out of this Leo energy, but also kind of balance that with some of this thriving in the material world, which is what Virgo brings. So this can positively impact your career. If you are looking for a time to ask for a promotion or potentially get a new job, this is definitely a time to make those moves and make that happen. Any physical healing that you're doing is obviously going to be favorable. And this is going to apply to every week this month. This energy is going to echo throughout the month. Every week this month, Mars is still going to be in Virgo. This will increase everyone's physical sensitivity, your sensitivity to energy, to physical sensation, to chemicals, toxicity. It can be difficult, especially if you're already prone to that level of sensitivity. Now, if you're a creative type, this is actually a really good placement for creativity in your work and your career. We get a little of that too with this Mercury up here in Leo. And again, this is going to be the case throughout the month. So we're going to have this energy regardless. Venus is going to move around on us a little bit, but we're still going to get the majority of this Venus and Cancer energy. Now, Cancer is an extremely internal constellation. It is all about going into the underworld or to the inner world and discovering the dark secrets of yourself, doing any shadow work, or potentially discovering the secret mysteries of the universe, however you want to look at that. With Venus being the most empathic of all of the planets, this really sets you up for some deep physical and emotional healing. Any work work you do in particular on your heart chakra is obviously going to really pay off in a way that it otherwise might not. Depending on whether or not you are already positioned to kind of isolate yourself, sometimes this can be a little self-isolation. It's not anything to worry about unless, of course, you are physically or emotionally injured, you're going through some sort of trauma, you're trying to heal some trauma, then obviously it's not a bad thing to kind of self-isolate. You just don't want to go overboard with it. Jupiter this entire month is going to be making its way right here between Aries and Ketis. This is a very powerful placement. It's a very karmic placement, very creative, a little maybe on the chaotic side. Depending on what your chart looks like, this could result in you doing some damage, not necessarily all bad, but the creative energy in the head of Ketis and this portion of Aries combined with Jupiter's power and raw creativity can definitely be overwhelming and can result in a bit of overpowering your environment, overdoing your projects, and kind of starting things on fire. Hopefully not literally, but possibly. If you are in a twin flame relationship or a deep soulmate relationship with a romantic partner, this is probably going to be a very intense month, for better or worse. Again, it depends on you, it depends on your partner, but this is going to intensify a lot of those experiences. Now, again, if you do any creative work this month, this is extremely favorable. This is also favorable if you are going after a promotion, you're trying to level up in whatever it is that you're doing, this can actually make this happen. If you are not adverse to stepping into your own personal power, this can pay off for you quite a bit. Saturn's still making its way through Aquarius. This is going to be a long one, but anyone who is in the technology space, in communications, any type of craftsman, artist, the spotlight is on all of you right now, as long as Saturn's going to be here, and it's going to be here for quite some time. So take advantage of it. That's pretty much everything for the month overall. Now we'll go ahead and take a really quick look at this week. This is from the 15th to the 22nd. We're going to focus on the moon. In case you don't know, the reason why we focus on the moon is because the moon is transiting the signs very, very quickly, while the sun is just slowly moving by. The moon ends up providing us with a much more detailed and much more accurate forecast than just looking at the sun. In Mesopotamia, the moon was the most important luminary in the sky. That's where all of the focus was, and rightly so. So into the 16th, as you can see, we are going to have this conjunction with Mars on the 16th. As you can see, the moon is right on top of Mars. This is not great. Well, it's not great geopolitically. This could be very dangerous, and probably not a lot, any of us who are actually watching this video, that we can do about this, but definitely not a good situation as far as the geopolitical stuff goes. However, on an individual level, this is actually phenomenal for intimacy, for pleasurable experiences. It really unites the heart and sacral chakras. It can result in a lot of creativity and fertility if you're trying to conceive children. This is a good time to do that. If you are trying to not conceive children, definitely be careful. Now, depending what your Mars looks like in your natal chart, this could actually be really good career-wise too. This can result in some promotions, bonuses, big sales, things like that. Again, depending on how your Mars is placed. We are going to get this conjunction on the 17th with Spica. This is the health and wealth star. This is all healing and bounty. It should generally be a good thing, especially if you have strong Virgo in your chart. We are going to be moving into the southern portion of Virgo and into Libra. And really this whole portion of the sky is all Libra energy. And this is mostly happening on the 19th, again, Egyptian Standard Time. While this happens, this is going to increase our social energy. Now, social, not necessarily personal. This can be professional as well. So this is a good time to focus on the career, and any work you do is definitely going to be favored. Halfway through the 20th, and then throughout the 20th, we're going to be going into the claws of the Scorpion, and we're going to get this conjunction with Antares on the 21st. Now, this was the Lisi star, and the Lisi goddess was known as the lamenting goddess. She was known to be able to soothe the hearts of angry deities. Obviously, as the lamenting goddess, she was associated with lamentation. This conjunction intensifies intimacy. Now, I say intimacy, just intimate experience. I'm not necessarily saying this has to be on a romantic level. Your interpersonal experiences with other people. If you have a career where you are counseling or coaching, you probably deal with this type of phenomenon all the time, but this is going to intensify this for the rest of us too. So it's a good time to have really deep conversations, not just with other people, but maybe even with yourself. I would definitely try to meditate during this time if at all possible. And again, you're going to be able to do this on either side of this conjunction by hours, if not, a day or two. the moon will be transiting Ophiuchus, and that is going to bring us to the first quarter moon. I do want to take the opportunity to remind everyone watching this, you're obviously interested in astrology, or else you probably wouldn't be sitting here. Squares are obviously one of the most commonly used aspects in astrology, and generally speaking, they're seen as something negative. When you have a square in your chart, an astrologer probably looks at that and tells you, yeah, this is bad, it's a challenge, it's stressful, it's a roadblock, it's whatever, it's something not good. I just want to remind you that every month the moon becomes square with the sun twice. That's what gives us the quarter moon. And the quarter moons are another type of beginning. It's the start of the new week. In Mesopotamia, every 7 days, or every quarter moon, essentially on the 4 major moon phase days, it was basically like take a day off. It was a holiday. Now, in some cases, it was seen as like we should probably stay home just to be careful in case something wacky's going on out there, because obviously this is like a big deal. It's the start of the new week or the end of the new week, but it's that in-between time. There are some scholars who believe that this was the origin of Shabbat, or the Sabbath. It's taking this every 7-day off to hang out at home. But energetically, this is just the start of the new week. And there's nothing scary about it. There's nothing bad about it. It's just a midpoint. We'll also say, along the same lines, the full moon happens every single month when the moon reaches opposition with the sun. So every month we have an opposition between the sun and the moon. And that's what gives us the bright, beautiful full moon that I would imagine everybody loves, unless you're a werewolf. And then, you have your own hang-ups with the moon. But other than that, we all love it. It's a time of energy. There's no blockage. There's no not being able to tune in, like these planets are in opposition, so something must be black. No, this is actually blowing this energy up. This is when we feel the moon the most, or at least a lot of people claim to. Even people who aren't into things like this, most people can agree that this is a time of energy, and some wacky stuff goes down in hospitals and all kinds of stuff. The point that I'm trying to make is that these aspects are traditionally viewed as something negative, and there is absolutely no reason to think that they are negative. There's literally nothing negative happening in an opposition nor in a square. If you're curious as to how the modern meanings of the aspects came into being, it basically boils down to medieval astrologers taking a lot of medieval, namely Christian superstition, and just plastering it onto astrology. Yes, there was some of it in early classical astrology too. I say early classical astrology, I mean Greek astrology, but the aspects really didn't take on any real significance until medieval times. Now that that's out of the way, let's continue on through the month. We get this Ophiuchus energy, namely right here on the 22nd. Now, since this is starting off our new week, we are going to be picking up some additional healing. Our intuition will be increased throughout the week. As you can see, the moon is, well, maybe you can see the moon is conjunct with the galactic center at this time. Now, while we do get a lot of restlessness, sometimes a lot of restless energy out of Scorpio, it kind of mellows out a little bit when it starts to go into Sagittarius. We get our focus back. It's a little less emotional, and it starts to become more focused on the professional side, on being a responsible adult in the material world. But if you're looking to get some additional healing or do some meditations during this time, this is definitely a good day to do it. We're going to be transiting Sagittarius for quite a bit throughout the 23rd into, looks like the 24th, and then halfway through we do reach the midpoint here between Sagittarius and Capricorn on the 25th. Now, Capricorn, as you may or may not know, if you watch my videos, you probably know Capricorn is the most nurturing of all of the constellations. This is all just maternal mother energy. Some of it's more earth mother energy, a little bit on this side of Capricorn. It's a little bit more of the psychic spiritual side. If you have any healing that you want to do, whether that's on yourself or somebody else, this is a great time to do that. Any spiritual work at all will definitely be favored. We do have this conjunction with Saturn on the 27th. We're going to feel that probably even on the 26th. This is creativity time for innovation, music, communication, networking, especially anything to do with your career. This is when the epiphanies happen. Anytime we're in Aquarius, that's going to happen. But with Saturn in there too, it's definitely going to be much more intense. Into the 28th and throughout the 29th, which is going to bring us to the full moon, we are going to get this energy of Pisces. Originally, these were not just fish. This was a fish, this was a swallow, and they were both the sacred animals of Anunnatun or Nanshe, and she was the epitome of the psychic, magical, spiritual mother goddess. Everyone's intuition should be increased during this time. Don't be surprised if you're having really weird, whacked out dreams, really strange synchronicities. It's going to be an interesting full moon, probably for most of the population. Now, this energy should continue throughout the week since this is setting us up for the new week too. And that's going to carry on all the way until the 6th. I live my life on a lunar calendar, and I pretty much try to start all of my new projects during the first 2 weeks of the lunar month and start wrapping things up towards the latter half. It works for me. I don't know if it works for everybody else, but with the moon in Pisces, this is a great time. This next 2-week period in general, from the 29th onward, should result in you being able to take care of some business, personally, professionally, across the board. Through the 30th into the 31st, we're going to cross this portion of Pisces, and we're going to start getting into some of this Ketis energy on the 1st. And this is going to take us right into the middle of this little space over here, right into the middle of Aries, right on the 2nd. And as that happens, we're going to get this conjunction with Jupiter. If you've watched my videos, you probably know that this was originally Tiamat. She was the primordial mother goddess. She is the stuff that all of the cosmos is made from, not unlike the concept of Maya or Shri Lakshmi. She's literally the fabric of space and time. This is the source of powerful, powerful creation energy. With the moon here, we're going to be dealing with that anyways, but it's also going to be amplified with this conjunction with Jupiter. A lot of times in the Babylonian omens, when a planet is in the halo of the moon, sometimes it's not always a good thing, but when Jupiter's in the halo of the moon, it's like amazing. It's just really powerful, very, very intense. Please try to meditate on this day. This is also a very important date for anyone in a twin flame or soulmate relationship. Don't be surprised if synchronicities and weirdness occurs. We start to get into Taurus throughout the 2nd. We are going to be right here. We're going to see that the Pleiades is in the halo of the moon. Not usually a good situation geopolitically, but as long as the moon is in Taurus, this is a fantastic time to do any type of learning. If you want to learn Sumerian, check out this link right here. But all learning is favored during this time. Also service. This is a good time to be generous. Now we start going into this very interesting portion of the sky. As you can see, we have 4 really important constellations right here. There's a lot going on. Probably too much to get into in this video, but this is powerful leadership energy. It's healing energy. It's protective. It goes from what is essentially service over here to kingship placements and leadership positions right into protective warrior positions. I mean, there's a lot going on just right in this one tiny little area of the sky. Pinning it down on the 5th may be tricky. And again, it will depend on what your natal chart looks like, how this is going to affect you. But it may be, you may feel like you're being pulled in multiple directions. Just don't be surprised. Start getting this Gemini energy throughout the 5th. Now, this is going to increase your empathic connection, especially to family members, to loved ones, and even friends. If you struggle with immune system issues, this can sometimes result in some weakened immunity. It's really going to depend on how you handle your empathic ability, your natural empathic ability anyways. I can't tell you if this is going to result in a lot of healing for you or if this is going to result in illness. It could kind of go either way. Then into the 8th, the moon goes into Cancer. This is all going inward, potential for isolation and self-isolation, but a great time for meditation. If you meditate during this time, expect very interesting things. And then into the 9th and into the 10th, we are going to be moving into Leo, and we are going to be experiencing this conjunction with Regulus and Venus. Now, Venus is Ishtar, and so is Regulus, and so is this lion. So this is really, really intense Ishtar Inanna energy. If you don't know, Inanna was the Sumerian version and Ishtar was the Babylonian version. This is, as far as nations and countries are concerned, this is not great. This can result in some actual conflict. But personally, on an individual level, this can result in powerful, empathic, and emotional and spiritual bonding with loved ones, especially romantic partners, but all loved ones. Expect both your empathic sensitivity, your normal clairsentience, which is physical psychic sensitivity. Expect that to be increased during this time too. It should be interesting, to say the least. I kind of skipped it, but back on the 6th, here is our quarter moon. It is kicking off right in Gemini. So this is going to leave us with this final week of the month. It is going to make things a little bit more precarious. physically and emotionally. I think we're pretty stable financially with the Virgo energy, the way it looked at the beginning of the month, but this is definitely going to leave us feeling a little bit more vulnerable towards the end of the month. And then throughout the 10th and the 11th, as we can see, into the 12th, we are going to be transiting back into Virgo, and this is going to start balancing us back off, so we are not quite as vulnerable physically, emotionally, spiritually, as we were at the start of this week. And we're going to be wrapping up the month in Virgo with a conjunction with Mercury and the moon, because yes, the moon is conjunct with the sun every month. That's how we get the new moon. And they're all going to be conjunct here in Virgo. Depending on where you live and what your current financial situation is, this is actually a really good time financially. Now, of course, it's going to depend on your natal chart. It's going to depend on a lot of different factors. But if you're waiting to close some deals, make some investments, buy some properties, sell some houses, whatever that type of thing is, this is definitely the time to do it right here at the end of the month or right at the beginning of the next lunar month. This is probably just some superstition, but I would probably wait right until the beginning of the new month before I did anything like that. I don't think it's going to matter too much. I think you're going to be getting this energy right around the same time anyways. And as you can see, and I know I'm kind of pushing it a little bit because we're going into the next month, we're pulling in this spike at energy on the 15th too. So that's like on the same day. We're just wrapping everything up in here. And this is actually really good. A couple of things I do want to touch on. So we're going back to the 15th. I don't know if you can see this over here. Let me center her. So as you can see, Venus is transiting over here on the right. I mean, it's right in between the two constellations on the 27th. This should pull us out of some of that self-isolation that we may have been experiencing. Now, this can be a little chaotic because as you can see, Mercury is starting to go into Virgo at the same time that Venus is going into Leo. This is going to intensify the emotional side of things, and this is going to intensify the intellectual side, the cognitive side. If you are positioned for it, this can result in a lot of internal chaos. So overthinking, possibly stressing out about silly things that you don't need to be, taking things personally, getting your feelings hurt. It doesn't have to go that way. It can actually result in a lot of creativity, a lot of additional focus. It's just going to depend on your natal chart. And then she's going to continue. She's going to get this conjunction with Regulus on the 8th. And that is really, really powerful, emotional, loving energy, sexual energy, fertile energy, creativity, all of it. It's all wrapped up in here. And you're going to get even more of it. Obviously, we already talked about this on the 10th when the moon becomes conjunct with these as well. This Mars Spica conjunction happens on the 4th. This can sometimes result in spending money on some frivolous things. It's not bad. It's like a good time to buy tickets to go on vacation somewhere. It's not a bad thing, but don't be surprised if money goes out just as quickly as it comes in during this specific time period over this, couple of day period. I think that's pretty much everything for this month. If you haven't already, like, share, subscribe, and if you have any questions, let me know. I'm happy to give you all the information that you could potentially handle. And otherwise, just take very good care of yourself.